Hey, this is Dickie Lee, and you're listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Welcome to the show. I am Tony Peters. Now, Gayla Peevey was all of 10 years old when she recorded the now classic Christmas song, I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas.
I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus will do.
She cut the track back in 1953 for Columbia Records and even performed the single on the Ed Sullivan Show.
And on the show is an amazing little girl by the name of Gayla Peevey.
The song's popularity allowed her hometown zoo to obtain a real hippopotamus. And Gayla found following up her hit song difficult and trying to break out as a serious singer even more challenging. She eventually wrote and recorded songs under a different name before walking away from the business altogether to raise a family. But then something funny happened. The hippopotamus song continued to grow in popularity until now it's one of the most played Christmas songs of all time. And she even is reconnected with the Oklahoma City Zoo to perform the song there as a holiday tradition. So, we welcome to the program Gayla Peevey. Gayla, how are you?
I'm fine, Tony. How are you?
Fantastic. Now, I would like to go back, to the beginning. You're living in Oklahoma. Did you come from a musical family? Did you have music surrounding you? What got you singing in the first place?
Actually, my family was musical, especially on my mother's side. She came from a big family. They lived on a farm, and every brother and sister, she had 11 brothers and sisters, and they all sang and played guitar, fiddle, whatever, they just, whenever the Hortons got together, it was all about music, and so that I grew up in that kind of an environment.
That's fantastic. Now, you're singing at an early age, but then how does a 10-year-old girl from Oklahoma get signed to Columbia Records? How did that all come about?
Yeah, that's a interesting question, isn't it? Well, I actually was singing professionally in Oklahoma from the age of 8 years old.
Wow.
I kind of got discovered and put on local television there were 2 local television shows. You'll laugh when I tell you the name of the shows. Very Oklahoma. One was Sooner Shindig.
Okay.
And the other one was Chuckwagon Gang.
Chuckwagon Gang. All right, okay.
Yeah. And so I started singing regularly on those shows, and then you have to remember this was in the early 50s, so television was pretty new. And so if you were on TV regularly, oh my goodness, it was a big deal. So I started getting singing engagements all over the state, and then somehow I got maybe somebody from the station, WKY-TV, sent a demo to New York, and then that was the connection where I got a Columbia record contract. And so they flew me to New York, and Mitch Miller was the A&R man at the time for Columbia.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he brought the little song to me for the first record that I made for Columbia, I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas.
I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus will do. No crocodiles, no rhinoceroses. I only like hippopotamuses, and hippopotamuses like me too.
And we thought, oh, that's a cute little song, And the flip side was Are My Ears On Straight? This was really
Are my ears on straight? I can hardly wait to be taken home Christmas Day.
That's cute too. Oh wow. So I mean, your parents obviously accompanied you to New York, kind of thing, right? I mean, I imagine they went with you through all this, and they were supportive. I mean, you're all of 10 years old, and you're in this, big office in New York and all that. That's got to be kind of crazy for your parents, I would think, too.
It was, and believe me, they were out of their element. I left out an important part. I was singing on local television in Oklahoma, and from there I went to Hollywood and did the Saturday Night Review, which was the summer replacement for the Show of Shows. Remember Imogene Coca and Sid Caesar's show?
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and it was hosted by Hoagie Carmichael, and so I sang, it was a weekly show, and so I went from Oklahoma local television to the Hoagie Carmichael's, show in Los Angeles, in NBC. And, oh my goodness, the exposure was huge, and I think it was from that I, got recognized by Columbia and signed with a record contract.
Right. Now, the guy that I see listed as the songwriting credits for "Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas" is John Rocks. Did you ever get a chance to meet him or anything like that?
Unfortunately, no. I never got to meet John Rocks, but he wrote the song, and originally it was written as Hippo the Hero, I think.
Okay.
And so the people at Columbia Records rewrote it a little bit to customize it more for me, just to make it sing better and fit that kind of march tempo that Mitch Miller put together. And so it's not exactly the way he originally wrote it, but the version that I recorded seems to have caught on, and that's the one that everybody goes with because it's more well-known.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I also understand that while you were recording it, you kind of added your own little bit. How about the rhinoceroses or whatever?
No crocodiles or rhinoceroses. I only like hippopotamuses, and hippopotamuses like me too.
Yeah, it was. I did, and when I did it the first time, I just thought it would be funny,
right?
And I'm a kid, and I'm just having a good time. And I kind of looked at Mitch Miller, and I said, "Is it okay if I do that?" And he said, "Yeah, that's good. Go with that." So that's how the hippopotamuses, rhinoceroses
right.
in there.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, what's great about modern technology is that on YouTube, you can pull up all these crazy videos. And I'm watching last night a clip of you on the Ed Sullivan show. I mean, do you have memory? I know you're only 10, but you have memories of that? What was that like?
Oh, I do, yeah. It was a wonderful experience. And Ed Sullivan was very, very friendly, very nice. He looks kind of stodgy,
Right. Yeah.
He wasn't. He was very nice. And back then, he used to do something called Toast of the Town, and he would go to various towns and cities and put on a big show. And when he was in Oklahoma City, this was before I Want a Hippopotamus, he came to Oklahoma City, and I was part of his big show there, Toast of the Town, in Oklahoma City. So I had met him prior to being on the Ed Sullivan show in New York, and just very friendly. We hit it off, and so when the record was ready to be released, we kicked it off on the Ed Sullivan show.
Oh my goodness, that's great. I mean, the footage there is great. You're playing jacks with a couple of other little girls, and then you start walking around, and it's awesome. And my favorite part of the whole thing is at the very end, you give him a big kiss on the cheek.
I think he wasn't expecting that.
Right.
But I thought his comment afterwards was very cute to just be off the cuff.
Right.
Unfortunately, that sort of thing always happens when they're too young or too old.
That was so great. Oh, man, that's good. So this becomes a hit, and, I mean, what was that roller coaster ride like at 10 years old to suddenly, you're gone from being this little girl from Oklahoma to suddenly in demand at 10 years old?
Yeah, it was life-changing, to say the least. And my parents, we believe me, we were country folks, not showbiz people, and it was really kind of a overwhelming for my parents. But they did the best they could. I started, doing a lot of singing and traveling, and basically my mother and I did all the traveling together. My dad had a job. He worked for the, I hate to say it, but the IRS.
Oh, right, okay. Well, you got to pay the bills, right?
People always grimace when you say that.
Right.
But he had a job, and he stayed, back and worked. But Mother and I, she went with me everywhere. And, it was a very, different. However, I had been singing professionally, but not so much on a national scale.
Right. Now, how did you juggle school? I mean, what did you do with that situation?
Well, that was a problem because in Oklahoma, I had become so well known that I literally could not go to school. And back then, there weren't a lot of private school options.
Wow, yeah.
And so school was a real problem. I tried to go to Columbus Elementary School when I was in the 5th grade, and it was just chaos. I mean, I was just mobbed, and it was just hard my parents finally pulled me out of school, and I pretty much missed the 5th grade altogether. My dad kind of homeschooled me a little bit, and they put me in a couple of different private schools, but they were awful, and so I just didn't have 5th grade to speak of. And believe it or not, eventually it just got so hectic, and my parents were not geared for that. They took me out of Oklahoma and moved to the West Coast to get away from all of that so that I could go to school.
Wow. Huh.
It's just crazy. Most people go to, California to get into the business.
Right, not to get away from it. Yeah.
We came there to get out of it.
Wow.
Found the most remote place that and then I didn't tell anybody who I was or about, my entertainment industry background or anything. And I just started just to school and went on through school. So school was a problem, and now in today's world it wouldn't be because, there's so many kids in show business and they have all these, ways of treating school situations as different.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when your very first hit is a novelty record, that can be really tough to try to break out of that mold. And, I was looking at, you did one for Easter, right?
You hit it on the nose, Tony. You really touched a nerve because, unfortunately, because I was a little kid, they felt like, and then the first record was a children's song and it made a hit. Then every song after that was a little animal song, a little kiddie song. And that was unfortunate because I really was used to singing big adult, belting type songs when I was singing anywhere else besides recording. I mean, I was belting out, Too Young to Tango. And,
right, okay.
All those, adult songs. But they felt like they could only give me these little kiddie songs, which it's pretty hard to sink your teeth into. I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas was the only one that really you could just sing, and belt it out. But, they gave me some awful, awful, awful songs. They were, Rubber Legs, the Knock-Kneed Monkey, give me a break.
Right. Yeah, I noticed you did one with another childhood star, Jimmy Boyd, Kitty in the Basket or whatever.
If there's someone in the city doesn't want a little kitty, tell them put the little kitty in a basket.
Yes, we recorded, I think 2 or maybe 4 songs, counting the flip sides, together. And he was also on Columbia. And you know what? They did pretty much the same thing to him because he was a kid. he had, in 1952, he had that big Christmas hit, I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus.
Right, yep.
And then after that, they gave him, picked the same type of songs that they were giving me.
Right.
And it just didn't work because he was a little country boy, well, I was a little country girl, and we were used to just really singing, give me something I can sing. And it didn't enhance his career at all, and it didn't mine either to just have those kind of, choices of songs. And of course my parents didn't get involved, and I was a kid, so whatever they gave me, that's what I sang. And, if I had a good manager, like a lot of kids today, they would say, hey, this is not what she should sing.
Right, yeah.
Give us something. Give us something she can sink her teeth into.
Right,
but
yeah.
Nobody was doing that for me, and so some of those follow-up songs to the Hippo record were not the right choice.
Not the right choice. Now, if we get back to the Hippopotamus for a minute, there's depending on where you read, there's 100 different stories about the hippopotamus in the zoo. Some people say the record company gave you the hippopotamus. Some say that after it was a hit, then you got the hip. So what's the story with you getting Matilda the hippopotamus?
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there, but here's the real story of that hippopotamus. The record was released, and it was taking off like gangbusters. I was living in Oklahoma City at the time, and the zoo director and the newspaper, Oklahoma City newspaper, had this brilliant idea that why don't we have people send in money and raise enough money to buy Gayla a real live hippopotamus
that you can put in your 2-car garage, right?
Yeah, right.
right.
And honestly, kids started sending in nickels and dimes, and they would send them into the newspaper, and they would collect the money. And they had little articles in the paper every day that would have a place where they could tape their money, and then they would send it in. Well, by Christmas, they had raised enough money to buy me a live hippopotamus, and she was flown in to the Oklahoma City airport, and she was in a big, giant crate, and it was Christmas Eve morning of 1953. And, of course, all the media was there. It was a big event, and they presented Matilda, was her name, presented Matilda to me. And, of course, she was too big, and it wasn't feasible to take her home and keep her in the garage like the little song said.
Right.
So I graciously donated her to the Oklahoma City Zoo.
Aww.
And that was a very fun event, and they followed, me to the zoo and then put her in her little, display area. And thousands and thousands of people, 10,000 people the next day came.
Wow.
And lined up to see Matilda, and, I was greeting everybody. So it was a big event and an unusual thing, to say the least. And she lived there. Matilda lived there in that zoo for, I think, 45 years.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's amazing. And they brought in a mate for her named Norm, and they had like a wedding and made a big deal about it. And they hit it off and had 9 babies.
Wow, how about that?
Amazing? Yeah,
that's
amazing.
great. Well, see, all because of your song. Then how about that? That's. Oh, that's great. Well, what's interesting is, we talked about the fact, you have this little kitty record, and now you're trying to break out of the mold. So I noticed that after a while, you started going under a different name. Why did you start calling yourself Jamie Horton?
Well, that was not my idea, and it was a bad idea. I already had name recognition as Gayla Peevey, but I had a manager at the time who thought, it's really hard to transition from child to, adult, and so maybe it would just make it easier if you just started out as a whole new person. And so he wanted me to change my name, and I was against it. I didn't like the idea, but, I'm still a kid. I mean, what do I know? And so they picked my mother's maiden name, which is Horton, and my granddad's name was James. And so we put the two together and said Jamie Horton. And so that's how the name came about and the change. So I signed with Joy Records as Jamie Horton, and the first release was a song that I wrote called My Little Marine.
How could they be so mean to my little Marie?
And it actually did chart. You know, it hit the Billboard charts.
Yep.
Never made it way up, you know, in the charts, but somewhere in the 50s. So it did pretty well. And I released, you know, several records as Jamie Horton. It was kind of that doo-wop era.
Yep.
So it was kind of in that vein.
Yeah, I noticed Robot Man. You had the cover of the Connie Francis song.
I want a robot man to hold me tight, the one that I can count on every single night.
Yeah, her Robot Man, Connie Francis, they first released it in England, and it was a big hit. And the people at Joy Records said, well, let's you know, cover it before they release hers here. We'll beat them to the punch. Well, the sad thing about that, and it was a cute record, but I already had a record that was out, which was climbing the charts, called There Goes My Love, and it was really one of the best records I made as Jamie Horton.
There goes the boy I used to know, there goes the boy that I was so, there go the arms that used to hold me tight.
And it was really getting a lot of airplay, and it was kind of moving up the charts, but they killed it to quickly release Robot Man so we could beat Connie Francis before they brought hers to
Oh, boy. Yeah.
But that was another bad decision.
Right.
Because There Goes My Love.
Yeah,
it was so much better.
Yeah, and I mean, I almost feel like as you went along, the songs got better, and you kind of you started to write more. Like, you know, I really like, was it Going, 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 Gone? That was pretty good. That's got like a good beat to it. And then I really liked Where's the Boy? That kind of has a little more of a grown-up sound to it.
Oh, Where's My Love?
Where's My Love? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one, and actually Paul Anka wrote that for me.
Really?
Where's my love? Where's the boy I'm thinking of? Won't you tell him I love him so, and I'll never let him go?
Yeah, he wrote that for me, and that was a pretty good song. It never seemed to take off, you know, like we had hoped, but it was a good song, and it really kind of reflected the style of rock music at that time.
Right. And I have to ask you about one more. You have one called They're Playing Our Song that's got like a snippet of 16 Candles in it, too.
They're playing our song.
Yes, that was a bright idea of somebody at the Joy Records offices. Let's combine that, and so it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Overall, I think a lot of people that were doing the doo-wop kind of stuff at that time, what happened is the Beatles came along.
Yep.
And that changed everything. It's a whole different style of music, and it kind of ushered out the doo-wop people and ushered in all of the new sounds, and that happens. That's what happens.
Sure, old, out with the old, in with the new, I guess, kind of thing. Yeah. But so was that kind of the, was that sort of the sign to you to go, hey, it's time to hang up the microphone, kind of thing, and try something else?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at that point, I was still in my teens, but I just decided, I need to finish school, and that's what I did. I finished school, I went to college, got my degree, briefly taught school. I met Cliff, my husband, and we married, and just raised our daughter and got involved in life. And I have a wonderful life. And I'm so thankful that, some kids that are in show business really go off the rails.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And that can happen very easily, and I can see how that would happen because, you've had this celebrity and all this attention, and then it's gone, and you feel like a has-been at, 12.
Right, yeah.
And I went through that. I did. I felt, like even though we chose to get out of it, it was very hard because I was used to being, in the center of attention and all of that going on, and then it's gone, and you don't even know who you are or what to do.
Yep.
So I can see where, child stars, once they're past it, you really have a problem adjusting.
Yeah, and fame and success is a very strange thing. It certainly is.
Yes, it is. I attribute my smooth transition and happy life to, got real involved in church, and, my faith, I think, got me through so that I felt like my identity wasn't so wrapped up in my performance. It's who I was, created to be, and
yep.
and it gave me a whole different attitude about life and my worldview and all of that. So that's what got me through.
Yeah, and that's really important because I think that's what's missing with a lot of the other people that weren't so lucky about that.
Yeah.
Didn't have that to fall back on for sure.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But and what's interesting is we kind of come full circle because then I look on YouTube and I see footage of you back at the Oklahoma Zoo singing the Hippopotamus song again. Isn't that funny? It's like
it is, and it's just absolutely so unexpected, because the song's always been around for 63 years, but it kind of died down. I didn't hear much about it, for many years until about, 5-10 years ago. It literally got rediscovered, I think, and maybe it's satellite radio, I don't know. The internet, iTunes.
Then you have, I don't know if you have it out where you live, but we have these 24-hour-a-day Christmas stations that sign on, on the radio. Yeah. And that could be it, because they got to fill 24 hours of Christmas music, right? So maybe,
I don't know. That's probably part of it, but it really has become so much more popular. And new generations have discovered it. They think it's a brand new song.
Right.
And I started, out of nowhere, I started getting calls from radio stations literally around the world for interviews. So I knew something was up. And now it's just continued to get more popular. And, people, it's like the number one novelty Christmas song every Christmas on iTunes. And people download ringtones of it, and they put it in toys and greeting cards and Christmas ornaments.
Oh, that's great. See? Yeah. And so we're talking to you at a very busy time, you've got, you told me you did some television appearances too, kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. Yesterday morning I was on Channel 6 and did an interview, and then every day it's been one radio interview after another from West Virginia, Texas, here where I am, and I get a lot of feedback from Canada. The song's big in Canada.
Wow.
And Ireland. I hear from people from Ireland and Scotland. There was a teacher of a primary class in Scotland that contacted me and, said her class was going to sing the song, and, could I send an autographed picture to her kids? It's so fun.
Oh, that's great.
It's opened a whole new world.
Yep. And you had no idea that at age 10 we'd be talking about it this many years later.
I had no idea that 63 years later that song would still be a big part of my life. I had no idea.
Yep, that's fantastic. Well, Gayla, it's been really a pleasure talking to you, and good luck on I'm sure you've got more interviews to do throughout the month of December here. So, take the opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas, and excellent. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you, Tony. I've enjoyed it, and you have a Merry Christmas, too.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head over to iconfetch.com. There, you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who is Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send what you've got to Tony Peters. Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio 45429. Or email Tony at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.